In the grand archives of interstellar conflict, few records begin with the sound of leather hitting willow. But this is not a usual war. This is the story of how cricket became the galaxy's most surprising weapon. The Wicket's War, a tale of cricket and combat. The gleaming silver spacecraft descended through Earth's atmosphere with all the subtlety of a peacock at a penguin convention. I, Prince Kael of the stellar dominion Naxos, watched through the viewport as the sprawling city of Melbourne materialized below. My mandibles clicked in barely contained excitement. This was to be my first observation of the famous human combat rituals. Your Highness, my chief advisor, Talia, buzzed nervously beside me. The preliminary scans show over 90,000 humans gathered in one location. Are you certain this is wise? I waved away her concerns with one of my secondary arms. The humans have graciously invited diplomatic observers to their World Cup finals. Besides, how dangerous can their primitive competitions be? They still use wooden implements. The Melbourne Cricket Ground, what a quaint name for a combat arena, spread out beneath us like a vast green disk. Our ship's cloaking field kept us hidden as we settled into the designated diplomatic viewing box, though I noticed several humans pointing scanning devices skyward. Impressive awareness, if ultimately futile, against our superior technology. Through our observation screens, I watched the peculiar ritual unfold. Two warriors, heavily padded and carrying wooden clubs, stood at opposite ends of a stripped dirt section in the middle of the field. Between them, another participant in white clothing ran forward and hurled a small red sphere at devastating speeds. Fascinating, I muttered, recording everything with my ocular implants. They test their warriors' reflexes and courage by throwing projectiles at them. But why do the defenders merely deflect rather than destroy? That's when I first saw her, Jade Harper. The human warrior strode onto the field with such confidence that even my highly evolved nervous system tingled in response. The crowd erupted in a thunderous roar that made Talia flinch backward, but Blackwood merely raised her wooden club in acknowledgement. Statistical analysis now, I commanded. Talia's neural processors hummed Jade Harper, Earth's highest-ranked strike rate in international competition, known for unprecedented accuracy in projectile deflection and what humans call power hitting. Most importantly, Your Highness, she's their champion. I leaned forward, utterly captivated as Blackwood took her stance. The opposing warrior charged forward, launching the red sphere with incredible velocity. What happened next defied my understanding of human capabilities. Blackwood moved like liquid mercury, her club describing a perfect arc through the air. The impact rang out like a sonic blast, and the red sphere soared over the boundary of the combat zone. The crowd's reaction nearly overloaded our audio sensors. That can't be right, I said, mandibles twitching. Replay with full spectrum analysis. The holographic replay confirmed it somehow. This human had calculated trajectory, velocity, and impact point in a fraction of a second, then executed a counterstrike with surgical precision. Your Highness, Talia warned, your interest is showing. Indeed, my bioluminescent patches were pulsing with excitement. I couldn't help it. Everything I had been taught about humans, that they were technologically backward, mentally simple, physically unimpressive, was being challenged by what I witnessed on that field. As Blackwood continued her display of skill, I made a decision that would change the relationship between our species forever. Prepare my combat regalia, I announced. Talia's color pattern shifted to alarmed crimson. Surely you don't mean to. Oh, but I do. I rose from my observation throne, my royal armor automatically adjusting to my elevated posture. If this is how humans train their warriors, I must test myself against their champion. The honor of the Stellar Dominion demands nothing less. But Your Highness, the diplomatic implications. I silenced her with a royal gesture. Below, Jade Harper had just executed another perfect strike, sending the red sphere into the crowd with mathematical precision. The human celebration reached new heights of frenzy. Begin the challenge preparations, I commanded. It's time to show these humans what real combat looks like. Poor Talia looked ready to molt from stress, but I was already composing my challenge speech. After all, how difficult could it be to defeat a human who fought with a wooden stick? I had no idea how spectacularly wrong I was about to be. The closing ceremony of the World Cup Finals was in full swing when I decided to make my entrance. Deactivating our cloaking field, my ship burst into visibility above the Melbourne cricket ground, casting a shadow over the celebration below. The humans' reaction was fascinating, a mix of awe, fear, and were they taking pictures with their primitive communication devices? Last chance to reconsider, Your Highness, Talia pleaded as our descent platform materialized. The diplomatic corps will have my thorax for this. The platform lowered us into the center of the arena, right next to where Jade Harper stood receiving her championship trophy. My royal armor gleamed under Earth's sun, its adaptive camouflage creating ripples of color that drew gasps from the crowd. The human security forces formed a perimeter, their weapons trained on us. People of Earth, my vocoder boomed across the stadium. I am Prince Kael of the Stellar Dominion Naxos. I come to honor your combat traditions. The stadium fell silent. Jade Harper turned to face me, trophy still in hand, one eyebrow raised in what my cultural database suggested was either amusement or skepticism. Your ritual combat training is impressive, I continued, gesturing at the cricket field. Though your weapons are primitive, your warriors show remarkable skill. Therefore, I challenge your champion to a true combat trial. The silence broke into a cacophony of voices. Somewhere in the stands, someone shouted, "Did an alien bloke just challenge Blackwood to a punch-up?" Jade Harper stepped forward, her height matching my own, an impressive feat for a human. "Your Highness," she said, her tone carrying that peculiar human quality called sarcasm. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. Cricket isn't combat training. It's a sport, a game." I blinked, all four of my eyes. "A game? You mean this display of strategic projectile warfare is merely entertainment?" "Well, yes," she replied, then added with a grin, "though you should see some of our test matches. Those can feel like warfare." The human crowd laughed. I didn't appreciate being the source of their amusement. Nevertheless, I maintained my challenge. Unless I let my mandibles click in the Nexonian expression of superiority, you fear facing a true warrior. The stadium's massive screens captured every moment as Amanda handed her trophy to a nearby official. "Listen, mate," she said, "I'm a cricketer, not a fighter. But if you have come all this way to learn about humanity..." She picked up her bat, giving it an experimental twirl. "I reckon I could teach you a thing or two." The crowd erupted in cheers. My bioluminescent patches flared with excitement, even as Talia made a sound like a deflating balloon behind me. Within hours, the human information networks exploded with the news. "Alien Prince challenges cricket champ to combat," screamed their headlines. Their primitive but enthusiastic media coverage reached every corner of their world. The diplomatic chaos was immediate and immense. Earth's various governments convened emergency sessions. The International Cricket Council found itself in the unprecedented position of consulting with military advisors. Sports commentators debated combat analysts. This is unprecedented, the human diplomatic liaison, Director Lin, told me in an emergency meeting. We can't just let you fight one of our most celebrated athletes. Why not? I countered. She accepted the challenge. Or does Earth not honor its warriors' words? Back in my ship's chambers, Talia was monitoring human information channels. Your Highness, they are taking this remarkably seriously. Look, Ms. Blackwood has already begun specialized training. The screen showed Amanda working with human combat instructors, adapting her cricket skills to fighting techniques. She practiced swinging her bat in defensive patterns, developed footwork that combined cricket stance with martial arts, and even incorporated her throwing accuracy into combat maneuvers. She's preparing as if this is an actual match, I observed, impressed despite myself. That's what concerns me, Talia replied. The humans aren't treating this as a diplomatic incident or an insult. They're treating it like a sporting event. The betting odds on human networks fluctuated wildly. Merchandise appeared overnight. T-shirts reading, "Cricket, the final frontier," and "One small step for Amanda, one giant whack for mankind." When the human media finally secured an interview with Amanda, her response to their questions about facing an alien prince in combat became instantly quotable across their global networks. "Look," she said, spinning a cricket ball in her hands. "Everyone's acting like this is some sort of interplanetary incident, but to me, it's just another match. Different pitch, different rules, same principle. Keep your eye on the ball, trust your instincts, and never underestimate a good Yorker." I watched the interview from my ship, my mandibles twitching with anticipation. She speaks with the confidence of a true warrior. She speaks with the confidence of someone who has nothing to lose, Talia corrected. The humans are treating this whole affair like a game, I finished, beginning to understand that perhaps I had miscalculated something fundamental about these humans. As the date for our combat trial approached, one thing became abundantly clear. What I had intended as a simple challenge had evolved into something far more significant. The humans had taken my misconception about their sport and transformed it into an event that somehow embodied both competition and celebration. I began to wonder who exactly would be teaching whom about combat. In the week leading up to the combat trial, I found myself explaining Nixonian combat traditions to an increasingly bewildered group of human officials. We sat in a conference room overlooking the Melbourne cricket ground, where workers were modifying the field according to my specifications. "So, let me get this straight," said Director Lin, rubbing his temples. "Your traditional combat trials involve 4 phases, each representing one of your arms." "Precisely." I extended my limbs proudly. "The trial of strength, the trial of speed, the trial of strategy, and the trial of honor. Each phase more challenging than the last. Our warriors train for decades to master all 4 disciplines." The ICC representative, Mrs. Patel, scribbled notes furiously. "And you expect Amanda to compete in all of these?" "Of course, though I understand if she wishes to forfeit early. Human physical limitations are well documented in our databases." The humans exchanged glances that my cultural database couldn't quite decode. Director Lin cleared his throat. "Perhaps you would like to observe some of Amanda's training sessions before making assumptions about human limitations." I declined graciously. Why waste time? Our scientific studies clearly showed humans were simple, bipedal creatures with no natural armor, weak sensory capabilities, and laughably basic reflexes. Besides, I had my own preparation to focus on. Back on my ship, I reviewed combat footage from my royal training sessions. My bioluminescent patches glowed with pride as I watched recordings of myself devastating opponents across the galaxy. "Your Highness?" Talia interrupted, her color patterns showing concern. "The humans have released something called a promotional video about the upcoming combat." The video appeared on our screens. It showed Jade Harper's cricket career highlights, interspersed with her new combat training. She was adapting cricket movements into fighting techniques I had never seen before. Her bat speed exceeded our calculated human maximums. Her footwork demonstrated an agility that shouldn't have been possible for her species. "Clever editing," I dismissed. "They are trying to intimidate us." "Perhaps we should study their cricket strategies more thoroughly," Talia suggested. "The humans seem to think they are relevant." "Nonsense. What could their quaint ball game possibly teach us about real combat?" Meanwhile, Earth's governments continued debating the implications of the upcoming battle. The United Nations Security Council held emergency sessions. Sports ministers consulted with defense departments. Cricket analysts appeared alongside military strategists on news programs. "The Prince is underestimating us," Amanda said in another human media interview. "Everyone always underestimates cricket players. They forget that we track tiny balls moving at 150 kilometers per hour, calculate complex trajectories instantly, and maintain intense focus for 5 straight days in test matches. His 4 trials. That's just a standard week at the nets for us." My mandibles clicked in amusement when Talia showed me the interview. Such bravado. Though I admit, her confidence is admirable. "She's not the only confident one," Talia muttered. The humans' preparation methods continued to puzzle me. Instead of traditional combat training, Amanda spent hours studying recordings of my previous battles, treating them like what she called game footage. Her team analyzed my movement patterns as if they were opposing batting techniques. "See this flourish he does with his secondary arm?" she explained to her coaches. "Same telegraph as a leg spinner setting up for a googly. And his defensive stance. Pure wicket-keeper. We can work with this." In my own training chamber, I practiced the sacred combat forms of my ancestors. My armor's neural interface helped me perfect each movement, each strike. The chamber's gravity generators simulated various combat conditions. I was a peak warrior of a highly evolved species. How could any human possibly match that? But doubt, that most insidious of opponents, began to creep in. Why were the humans so calm? Why did they persist in treating this deadly serious combat trial like one of their sporting events? What did they know that I didn't? "Your Highness," Talia reported, "the humans have finished modifying their stadium. They are calling it the Cricket Combat Arena. They have also sold out all tickets within minutes." "They're selling tickets." I paused mid-strike to a sacred combat trial. "They have even booked something called a pre-show with what they call cultural performances. And there's talk of commemorative merchandise." I should have been offended. Instead, I found myself fascinated. The humans had taken my challenge and transformed it into something entirely new. Neither pure sport nor pure combat, but some strange hybrid that seemed to energize their entire species. As the day of combat approached, my royal advisors sent increasingly worried messages from the Stellar Dominion. They feared I was taking unnecessary risks. They questioned the wisdom of engaging in combat with a species known for their unpredictability. I dismissed their concerns. After all, how dangerous could one human with a wooden bat be? The answer to that question would soon rewrite everything I thought I knew about humanity, cricket, and the true nature of combat. Looking back, I really should have watched those training videos more carefully. The Melbourne cricket ground had transformed into something unprecedented in both human and Nixonian history. The sacred oval shape remained, but now shimmering force field generators dotted the boundary rope. The pitch area had expanded into a raised combat platform, its surface a blend of traditional cricket turf and adaptive smart metal from my ship's armory. "Quite something, isn't it?" Director Lin said, standing beside me as we surveyed the arena at dawn. "First time we have ever had to merge ICC regulations with alien combat protocols." Massive holographic projectors, installed by my technical team, floated above the stadium. They would provide close-up views of the combat for the 90,000 spectators already filing into their seats. The humans had also set up something they called broadcast infrastructure to transmit the event globally. "Your viewing technology is adequate," I conceded, though privately I was impressed by how quickly they had adapted their systems to interface with our alien tech. "The combat surface meets Nixonian standards. Perfectly balanced between cricket pitch and combat arena," Director Lin confirmed. "Hard enough for proper bounce, soft enough for safe landings. The force fields will activate if either competitor gets too close to the crowd." Talia buzzed nearby, monitoring the human information networks. "Your Highness, they are estimating global viewership might exceed 2 billion. They are calling it the first interstellar test match." The stadium screens displayed the rules we had negotiated over the past week. 4 trials, each lasting 15 minutes, with 5-minute breaks between them, just like intervals between cricket innings, Amanda had insisted. The first trial would test strength, the second speed, the third strategy, and the fourth. Well, the fourth would be combat in its purest form. "Movement restricted to the marked arena," the announcer's voice boomed across the stadium. "No energy weapons, no projectiles exceeding cricket ball velocity, and no deliberate attempts to cause serious injury. Victory can be achieved through point scoring or submission. Points would be awarded for successful strikes, defensive maneuvers, and what the humans called style, a concept that still puzzled me. Amanda would be allowed her cricket bat and protective gear, while I would use ceremonial combat staffs that matched my 4 arms. "The stakes," the announcer continued. "As agreed by both parties, should Prince Karen win, Earth will acknowledge the Stellar Dominion's combat superiority and send their finest cricket players to train our warriors. Should Jade Harper win, the Stellar Dominion will establish a cricket league and invite Earth to help develop it." The crowd's excitement built as the sun climbed higher. Drums thundered from somewhere in the stands. Apparently, the Barmy Army, Earth's famous cricket supporters, had decided this qualified as a test match and brought their full musical arsenal. In my preparation chamber beneath the stadium, I performed the sacred pre-combat meditation rituals. My armor hummed as its systems synchronized with my biology. Each of my 4 arms was painted with traditional combat runes that glowed softly in the dim light. "The humans have turned this into quite the spectacle," Talia observed, her color pattern shifting nervously. "But something feels different about their energy today. It's not just excitement. It's like they know something we don't." Through the chamber's monitors, I watched Amanda's preparation. Instead of meditation, she was doing something called net practice in a specially constructed area. Her bat moved with impossible precision as she faced a bowling machine modified to match my attack patterns. "Just another day at the cricket," I heard her tell her team. Except this time, the bouncer might have 4 arms. The diplomatic implications of this event weighed heavily on both sides. The human governments had made it clear this wasn't just sport or combat, but a crucial first test of how our species could interact. a test that would be witnessed by most of their planet's population. 10 minutes to combat commencement, the announcement echoed through my chamber. Competitors, prepare for introduction. I rose, my armor automatically adjusting its configuration. The sacred combat staffs floated beside me, ready to be summoned. My bioluminescent patches pulsed with pre-battle energy. The human crowd, Talia reported. They are not acting like this is a combat event. They are treating it like a festival. There's something called a Mexican wave going around the stadium. Their lack of proper combat respect will be their downfall, I declared, though a tiny part of me wondered why they seemed so jubilant rather than nervous. The stadium lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the southern entrance as Jade Harper emerged. She wore modified cricket gear that somehow looked both protective and combat-ready. Her bat, gleaming with new reinforcements that my technical team had approved, rested casually on her shoulder. The crowd's roar was deafening. "Representing Earth," the announcer's voice boomed. "Winner of 3 World Cups, holder of 17 international records, the cricket combat champion, Jade Harper." Then it was my turn. I activated my armor's ceremonial light display and emerged from the northern entrance. My 4 arms moved in perfect combat synchronization, each staff spinning in classic Nixonian attack patterns. The crowd gasped, appropriately. Representing the stellar dominion, Naxos, undefeated in 12 galactic combat trials, master of the 4-armed arts, Prince Karen. We approached the center of the arena. The combat platform hummed beneath our feet, its surface rippling slightly as it calibrated to our movements. Above us, the holographic display showed every detail of our faces, my compound eyes gleaming with anticipation, Amanda's expression showing that peculiar human look that mixed amusement with determination. "Traditional handshake for the cameras," Director Lin suggested. I extended my primary right arm. Amanda stepped forward, bat tucked under one arm, and grasped my hand firmly. The touch sensors in my armor registered a grip strength that made my combat protocols ping in warning. "May the best being win," she said, and I detected that human sarcasm again. "Indeed," I replied, mandibles clicking. "Though I should warn you, no human has ever lasted through all 4 trials against me." Her grin widened. "Well, Your Highness, no alien has ever faced a player who survived a 5-day test match in Chennai in summer. Shall we begin?" As we took our starting positions, I realized something that should have concerned me earlier. The humans hadn't just accepted my challenge. They had embraced it. They had turned it into something uniquely their own. And Jade Harper didn't look like someone preparing for the fight of her life. She looked like someone walking out to bat on a perfect cricket morning. The combat horn sounded. The first interstellar test match was about to begin. The trial of strength commenced with a thunderous gong. I launched forward, all 4 combat staffs whirling in traditional attack patterns. Jade Harper stood her ground, bat at the ready, watching my approach with the same focus she had shown facing bowling attacks. "Time to show you real combat," I declared, bringing my primary staff down in a devastating arc. What happened next rewrote my understanding of human capabilities. Amanda shifted her weight just slightly and met my strike with her bat. The impact rang across the arena, but instead of buckling under my superior strength, she redirected my force exactly like she had redirected a cricket ball to the boundary. "Nice pace," she commented, spinning away from my secondary strikes. "But your follow-through is a bit obvious." The crowd roared as she continued deflecting my attacks, using minimum movement for maximum effort. My combat computers struggled to analyze her technique. It wasn't any fighting style in our database, She was literally playing my strikes as if they were deliveries in a match. "Don't stop defending and fight back," I demanded, frustration coloring my bioluminescent patches. "All about timing, Your Highness," she replied, and suddenly her bat moved in a perfect cover drive. The impact sent my lower right staff spinning away. Just like in cricket, wait for the bad ball. The first trial ended with neither of us scoring a decisive advantage, but the humans were cheering as if Amanda had just hit a century. "Your Highness," Talia buzzed during the break. "She's using the same principles they use in their sport. Each defense is a well-practiced cricket shot." Trial of speed began before I could process this revelation. Now I had to catch Amanda or tag her with my staffs while she evaded. Surely my forearms and superior alien physiology would prevail. Instead, I found myself facing someone who had spent years practicing split-second decisions against balls flying at lethal velocities. Amanda's footwork, honed by countless hours at the crease, let her dance around my attacks like they were merely bouncers on a tricky pitch. "You humans," I panted, "are just primitive bipeds. How are you moving like this?" She laughed, actually laughed, while pirouetting away from a complex four-staff strike pattern. "Ever tried running between wickets for 3 sessions straight? This is just like that, except you are bowling from 4 angles." When she finally launched her counterattack, it was with a move no Nixonian combat computer could have predicted. She used her bat like a pivot, planted it on the ground, and launched herself into a perfectly timed reverse sweep kick that caught my upper right arm before I could react. Trial of strategy proved even more humbling. I deployed classic Nixonian combat formations, trying to trap her in proven battle patterns. Amanda responded by treating the entire combat platform like a cricket field, using angles I had never considered possible. "Your attack," she explained while casually deflecting my third staff with a textbook late cut. "They are like bowling variations. Quick ones from the top arms, slower from the bottom, always trying to set up the next combination. But you know what?" "What?" I growled, launching another carefully planned sequence. "In cricket, we face 6 balls and over, every over different, for 5 days straight. We learn to read patterns like how your upper right arm twitches before a big attack. Dead giveaway, mate. Just like a bowler's tell." She wasn't just surviving my attacks. She was reading them, analyzing them, adapting to them. Worse, she was using the combat platform surface like a pitch, understanding how my strikes would bounce, using the variations to her advantage. The final trial, the trial of honor, began with both of us sporting various marks of combat. My armor's diagnostic systems reported multiple impact points. Amanda's protective gear showed signs of stress, but her grin remained unchanged. "This is proper cricket now," she announced, taking her stance. "The old ball is reversing, pitch is turning, second new ball due, perfect time for a counter-attack." What followed was unlike any combat I had ever experienced. Amanda switched from defensive deflections to aggressive strokes. Each strike of her bat now carried the full force of her accumulated knowledge, not just of cricket, but of how to translate those skills into combat. She played my strongest attacks like they were short-pitched deliveries, hooked my sweeping strikes as if they were bouncers, and somehow turned my own four-armed advantage against me by creating angles that scattered my coordinated strikes. "Remember," she said, moving into what humans call the zone. "Cricket isn't just about hitting the ball. It's about understanding your opponent, predicting their strategy, and staying focused for hours, days if needed." Sound familiar? It did. It sounded exactly like combat theory. The final moments of the match arrived with both of us at the center of the platform. I raised all 4 staffs for my ultimate combat form, the quadruple strike of victory. Every combat computer confirmed no single opponent could defend against all 4 angles simultaneously. Amanda watched my approach with the calm of a batter who had faced everything the sport could throw at them. As I launched my attack, she moved. The bat swung in what I later learned was called a perfect straight drive. One fluid motion, timed immaculately, using my own momentum and all 4 of my strike angles to create a force I never thought possible from a human weapon. The impact sent me flying backward. All 4 staffs went spinning away. I landed hard, combat computers flashing warnings as the stadium erupted into chaos. Through my dazed sensors, I heard the announcement, "Victory to Earth's champion, Jade Harper." As she helped me up, I had to ask, how? How did you turn a simple sport into such effective combat? Amanda smiled, leaning on her bat. Your Highness, cricket was never simple. It's about physics, psychology, endurance, and adaptation. Everything you value in combat, we practice every day on the pitch. We just wrap it up in a game. Looking at the cheering crowds, my defeat didn't sting as much as I expected. Somehow these humans had shown me that combat and cricket, sport and warfare, weren't as different as I had thought. They were all about understanding your opponent, mastering yourself, and being ready to face whatever came at you, even if it was an overconfident alien prince with 4 arms. Standing together at the post-combat ceremony, Jade Harper and I presented an image that would become iconic across 2 civilizations. The human champion, bat resting on her shoulder, and the alien prince, all 4 arms raised in sporting acknowledgement of her victory. The thing about cricket, Amanda explained to the global audience, is that it never was just a game. It's a conversation between cultures, a bridge between worlds. Today, we just expanded that conversation a bit further than usual. The political implications of our combat trial rippled across Earth and the stellar dominion. As promised, my civilization began establishing its first cricket leagues. Human cricket experts were invited to our worlds as honored instructors, bringing their wooden bats and red balls to each our 4 armed warriors a new kind of combat dance. Your Highness, Talia reported during our departure preparations, the humans are calling this the greatest sporting event in history. They are already talking about establishing an interstellar cricket council. I watched from our ship as crews dismantled the combat arena, returning the MCG to its original state. But the ground had gained something. A plaque commemorating the day cricket became humanity's first cultural export to the stars. We should have studied their sports more carefully, I mused. Any species that can turn a game into such effective combat techniques, imagine what else they might be capable of. The legacy of our match extended far beyond sport or combat. It became a testament to humanity's unique ability to adapt, to take the familiar and transform it into something extraordinary. They hadn't just beaten me at my own game. They had shown me a whole new way to play it. As our ship lifted off from Melbourne, Amanda's final words to me echoed in my thoughts. Next time you visit, Your Highness, bring your team. We will show you what a real test match feels like. I found myself looking forward to it. After all, any species that could turn a cricket bat into a combat weapon deserved careful observation, and perhaps a few return matches. Though next time, I thought as my mandibles clicked in amusement, I might try batting first. End.